Hi, I'm Cheryl Brunette, and today we're going to go to Eastern Europe, up near the Baltic Sea, and learn to knit sideways. I first became interested in this kind of lateral patterning when I got this book in the mid-80s, Knitting in the Nordic Tradition. And when I saw this going sideways design, I just thought it was fascinating. It's very traditional. Let's see. Here we go. You can see it. It's around the edges of hats that it's used. This I thought was especially interesting because this is the twisted knitting or the twine knitting that makes the sideways pattern here. But then, and this is an Estonian man's mittens, it's been replicated, but this time with stranded knitting. So that was a very, it's just, I find that attractive. Let's see, oh, and here is a closer look, where it's used at the edges. And because we've been working at edges, I think that this makes a very handsome edge, and so I decided to explore it. So the Nordic tradition, let's do this. I'm very fond of maps. Here is what we consider to be the Nordic countries: Norway, Sweden, Finland, Denmark, and here are Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania. My grandparents are from a small village right there, and they didn't get married till they came to the States. But when I was 5 years old, my grandfather showed me a map. We went to the atlas, and he said, and this is what the world looked like when my grandfather left, when he was born, and then when he left at 16, that your grandmother and I were, Grandma and me was born right there. And don't pay any attention to these lines here because they're always moving them. And so if you look at the difference between the map of 1883, my grandpa was born in 1887, and this map, these are just political boundaries. But I'm sort of fascinated, and they move. They do, you know, depending on who has the most wealth, the biggest guns, they overpower one another and they move around. There's that little piece of Russia. I've always thought that was kind of amusing. But regardless of where those borders move, there are ethnic groups and there are language groups. There are people who develop their own traditions, and no matter who comes in to take over, they still have those traditions. So when I was recently looking at, it's Estonia that we're going to look at today. There's Estonia, the one at the top. It's in the Baltic. There are all kinds of advantages to being close to the water, of course. We're going to look at the Estonian braid, or the lateral braid it's called, or Vikkel braid, or it could be Vikkel, my grandma would say Vikkel braid. This was my first attempt at the Vikkel braid. I cast on down here, and my problem when I first started was I kept picking up 2 stitches every row. I finally got it stabilized when I got that far. You cast on, I purled back, and then it's worked on a knit row. There's my purl back. It's worked on it. It's usually done in the round, and you can see why. This I did as a kind of speed swatch. I don't know if you know about those, but if you're going to knit in the round, your gauge will be different when you're knitting in the round than it is when you're knitting back and forth on needles, very probably. So in order to do a quick gauge swatch, instead of having to knit a whole hat or something else, you just knit across, bring the yarn back over to the other side, and knit across again. And you can see how tightly these are packed together when all you're doing is knitting it. It's really very simple to do. I have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 stitches here. When you start, you need to add an extra stitch. And I have been doing that by doing a cable cast on. I don't think that that's the best way to do it. You can make an extra stitch there anyway. I would have to play with it more in context. Like if I'm going to actually use this, then I am going to use the yarn that I'm going to use, and I will come up with a way to keep this edge from getting too long. In my sample, this edge is longer than this edge. It's not too bad, but I can tell the difference. And it's because I'm adding a stitch at this end and I have to take it off at that end. So you add that first stitch, you go to the second stitch. Oops. I don't have my sharp needles yet. Knit into the back of the second stitch, pull it out, but leave that stitch on the needle. Then knit into the front of the first stitch. Drop them both off at once and pass this stitch back over. I discovered that when you knit into the back of the second stitch, that is the one that's going to become the one that stays on the needle. This one that you knit into the front of the stitch is going to be the one that forms this line of stitching. So you could do it in two colors. Slip it back. It would be kind of cool. You could actually introduce that anywhere. It doesn't have to be at an edging. It would make a great design element. So knit into the back of the second stitch, leave it on the needle, knit into the front of the first stitch, drop them both off, and return that first stitch to the left needle. See how you can see how it's starting to form already. Once you have the rhythm going, it's a pretty simple thing to do. And I think it would be great for the edge of mittens, which is where it's been traditionally used, and hats. I would be careful on a hat not to make this too tight because you don't want that. You need a lot of flexibility there, so I'm making that really pretty loose. A couple of times when I've interrupted myself, I don't know quite where I am, but I'm always interrupting myself. Slip both off, the first one back, knit into the back, knit into the front, slip both off. And this is where I've gotten into trouble. This is when I first started where I got into trouble. I would always slip that back and work it again, and that's where I picked up my extra stitches. But I have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and that's all I'm supposed to have. So what you do is knit the last stitch and pass that over. And that gets you back to your original 10. So where I think it would be fun to use this would be in a Chanel style jacket. You could start here after the whole thing was finished, pick up all the way around, go down the front. It's under there. There's a bump under there. Go turn the corner, go around. You could do this on a circular needle. See, the whole thing would be continuous. You'd go up there, you'd grab it there, and then you would start your Vikkel braid. Vikkel braid. All the way around. So in order to accomplish that, though, you'd have to miter as you're building out here, 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 and here. And so I started playing with that a little bit, and again, I did a speed swatch of it. And the first row, this was where I cast on, right? Because I would be picking up around a sweater. The first row, I did a really nice job of mitering that. It just turned the corner. After that, it kind of fell apart, so I would have to work on that because it was a little bit tricky for me to do 2 increases and keep the right number of stitches. And it's just my first time playing. But this is non-rolling, it's kind of thick, and I love that tailored kind of look. Thank you for joining me today, and I hope you'll join me again sometime. We will be revisiting this subject of lateral designs that you make while you're knitting back and forth. And until then, be brave, try new things, and enjoy your knitting. Oh, hello. Hello. You're supposed to have the microphones on. You're supposed to have the microphones on. Oh, yes, I see it.